we're going to do, turn this blade inside out. We're going to put a set on it, or check the set at least. And while I'm checking the set on it, also check it for cracks. And have a good look at it, inspect it, make sure everything's happy. This is a Woodland Mills setter. I'm going to use the Range Road Sharpener, and I'll show you how this whole fellow works pretty easy. So this fellow goes on here like this. This is an economical way to get into setting your own teeth. I forget what this was as far as money goes, not a whole lot. A few $100 Canadian. So we've zeroed our meter before we started. There's a little plate which is the same thickness as the blade without the teeth set. So at 0, when we give this a little squeeze, we can measure what our set is. And this one here is 18 thousandths of an inch, 19 thousandths of an inch. Bounce it around a little bit. And I'm happy with that. 20 is 18, 20, that's gonna be just fine. So every third tooth is what we're looking for. This will advance my tooth to the third tooth. If I bring this arm. So every third tooth is gonna be a tooth that gets bent in that direction. That's pointing towards the setter, towards the wall, away from me. So the third tooth that comes that direction, we're going to be checking that set right now. And we push it over, give it a little squeeze, push it over, give a little squeeze, push it over, give a little squeeze, and we're good to go. So all I do at this point is I just put a white paint stick here, and I just mark where I started. And that way I don't have to worry about counting it and going too far. One thing you gotta know when you set these teeth, well, maybe you don't know. Do you know why you set the teeth? Maybe that's what we'll start with. There's a tooth, if you look at the sides of the teeth, there's a tooth that goes up, a tooth that goes down, and a tooth that's straight. So the tooth that goes up and that goes down, that's the thickness of the kerf of your saw cut, and then the center one pulls the sawdust out. It doesn't really do a whole lot of cutting, but it certainly will keep the wood from jamming on the blade. So you want to make sure there's a good set on your blade. And in the summertime, when you got soft wood and it's not frozen, you can have a pretty big kerf, 25 thousandths of an inch. I've even had as much as, I've experimented with as much as 30, but it's getting pretty aggressive. 15 to 18 this time of year is good. 18 to 22 in the summertime is okay with me. I'm okay with that as long as it's consistent. And just because you have a new blade doesn't mean that the set is correct out of the box. I've seen that before as well. So you have to make sure. And another thing you need to sort of think about is some blades have 2 welds in it. I don't know if this one does or not. There's 1 weld. I don't see another one. Sometimes they have 2 welds in it, and then it stops the pattern. So instead of 1 up, 1 down, 1 straight, 1 up, 1 down, 1 straight, 1 up, 1 down, 1 straight, you'll get 1 up, 1 up, 1 down, 1 straight. So then as you come along and you squeeze that tooth, you break it off because you're bending that up tooth to the down position, if that makes any sense, past its center point. So I look straight down, I can see it. Pleasant sound, isn't it? And you can really get a good rhythm going. And it takes about a minute to do this side of the blade. And I keep an eyeball on my meter as well, so that I know where I'm at, to make sure that I'm actually bending the right tooth and I'm getting the right set, so there's no issues. You got to go about 15 or 20 thousandths past what you want your actual set to be. And then 15 or 20 thou past where you want your set to be will give you your actual measurement.
Just had to make sure that I wasn't hitting the tripod with the blade. This also cleans some of the pitch off the blade as it goes as well. sure that you turn the handle all the way back to the right so that it catches the right tooth. Otherwise, you bring it back that far, you're going to be out of sequence.
And I passed my white mark a few teeth ago. So now what we want to do is we want to set the other side, and instead of flipping the blade over, we just flip our tool over and advance it one tooth right to what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be pushing the teeth that are facing towards me. So I set that up that way, give that a little squeeze. What are we at? Just about 22 thou, which is just fine. Not worried about that. I'm not going to bend it back for 2/1000 of an inch. So now we want to set that up on the sharpener. I'll try to do this without knocking you over. So we take our set indicator down, lift up our tooth, lift up this one, bring this around. This has to be turned the other way now again. Flip this blade back inside out. There we go. Now this has a little spring-loaded perch. You'll see this lifts up, and we put this under this roller guide over here, and under that roller guide there. And there's a little place up here for that to sit. And then this gets spun around, and we tighten this wing nut up. Now this is already set up for this blade. This is a Ripper 37 blade. I've used these blades a lot. So this blade, I don't know if you noticed when it was being set, it's got a tooth missing. And I've used these blades, and they might have had as much as a half a dozen teeth perhaps missing. And it doesn't seem to affect the way they cut. As long as you keep the set in the right pattern. They might put a little wave or something in your wood, and you know, those lines, it looks like a washboard. But so the setter, this is made by Range Road, sold by Range Road. I'm not sure who makes it, but they sell it. And I like this sharpener a lot because what it does is it allows you a lot less room. You saw my setter had a big blade that was horizontal, and I've got this aluminum bar that's set up here that will hold the edges of the blade kind of perfectly, the right level. Works out good. And I can set now, I can put a blade over this one, and in fact I do it all the time, and I'll set the next blade while this blade is cutting. Now this blade has to take 2 full rotations, in my opinion, to get a proper sharpen. This is a diamond wheel, and this wheel here is the exact profile of the tooth, from the cutting edge of the tooth all the way through the gullet, through the bottom, back out to the back side of the tooth. Now this blade was likely sharpened with this kind of a stone. I'll show you. This kind of a stone, which I would have had on this machine before. Got a couple of them here, one's worn out, this one was used a few times. And it only would have sharpened the cutting edge, it wouldn't have cut the gullet. So it takes a bit to reprofile this blade. I don't want to just eat up the whole blade by trying to make the shape proper again. So you'll see what I'll end up doing is putting the set, or doing the set, putting the blade on the sharpener, and maybe cut half a dozen teeth till I'm happy with the profile, and then it'll automatically do it until I shut it off the next time, and then I'll take another few thousandths of an inch in, and that's all. And I can see that there seems to be no cracks in the teeth. I'm quite happy with the way everything looks on this blade. I have a good peek at it there. So we'll turn on the grinder. We turn that on first. So there's 2 switches. One operates the grinder. The other one operates the table, which moves it in and out of the grinder. The grinder is a fixed speed, and this motor is a variable speed. So I turn the speed of that motor way down until I get the profile I want, and then we can turn it up a little bit. So I've already got these set up for about a 7-degree blade. It was kind of a bit of a pain in the bum to do. I used this as a straight edge, that flat edge, and I use a protractor. I have just a plastic protractor I use here with a carpenter square, and I forecast out my 10 degrees and work backward from there, 10 degrees, 7 degrees, and a 4-degree cut. But this one here, we're set up at 7 degrees to cut, and then there's two little guides, I guess they are, that the blade pushes on. Now keep in mind that this wheel will push the blade where it wants to the first couple of times, and then you can lock these down, and it makes it happy. So, all right, let's turn this on, and we'll get her going. It takes a little bit because that's a heavy wheel. So now we're up to speed, and we will turn on our cam profile, and we'll turn the speed up enough that it starts to move. And you can see how it advances each tooth. There's a finger here that grabs the tooth and advances it, and you can see how fast it's capable of going. Faster than it needs to, that's for sure. So I turn it down to somewhere about here, and I start spinning this in, turn this whole table in until it starts to make a profile. Until it starts to give me start sharpening on the cutting edge, and then I work backwards from there. That's a big bite. That's a big bite. There, that looks pretty good right there. It's just touching the cutting edge as it comes through. And it's cutting just about the entire tooth gullet and all. So we'll lock that there. It might be a little aggressive. That's better. And I'll put a little mark there as well, my paint stick. My progress mark. And then I can speed that up just a little bit. So this motor, I can move this way, and I can move this way. So once this full rotation gets done to clean the blade up, what I'll do is I'll turn this motor back a little bit towards the cutting edge, and this will go in this way a little bit towards the rest of the gullet, and it'll finish that cut. This just cleans it up and changes the profile. Not changes it, puts the right profile back on. And of course, this is all because it was sharpened with a regular abrasive style wheel before. So this is bloody boring, I'm sure. So I'll edit this either faster, slower, or cut some of this so you don't need to watch this whole thing go through. But it'll give you a good idea how inconsistent these teeth are, of how little it takes off some and how much it takes off others. Now, when I first got this wheel, I was expecting to change the direction of the cutting wheel. This cutting wheel, obviously, you can see turning in this direction by the way the sparks are flying, and I was told by the manufacturer that I'd have to reverse this direction. But that can't work because it would lift up on this whole spring-loaded affair with the blade. It's got to be held down, so we got to hold it down against the table. It won't cut the other way. And I don't really see the difference in the profile if it's coming this way or coming this way. It's still cutting at the center point of that blade, of that wheel. cutting edge and on the back part of the gullet. The next cut, it will cut right to the gullet, right on this side over here. Looks like it's cutting pretty good there. You can see how it's there's sparks on all around the wheel. And that's not a very aggressive bite. Ideally, I'd like to see a brand new blade that's never been sharpened. I'm going to try one just to make sure that I've got the right angles and the right profile. Or at least a blade that hasn't been sharpened before, only been just the first time. 400 or 500 board feet through it and let me sharpen it. So I don't know if I have any of those in my own pile. I think my customers are all virgin blades. So that paint mark is right here on the inside, so we're getting close. And you can see now that it's not taking very much off as well. Just a little kiss and that's all. And you see how nice and smooth that range road the motor is? Here you can see that white paint mark starting to come through now. So what I'm going to do as soon as that paint mark gets around is I will increase the feed a little bit. Here, that added about a thousandth of an inch, or a little bit more than a thousandth of an inch. You see a weld going through there now. That wasn't a weld, that was the other paint mark from when I ran it through the test. I had a friend not far from here, about an hour from here, that used to sharpen my blades. He did an amazing job. Not sure what blade sharpener he's got. I think it's the Woodland Mills blade sharpener, actually, is what he's got. And it works good. Never had any problems. He used to set my teeth, but he is an hour away, so I'll wait till I got a dozen or so and take them up. But I want it to be a little bit more control. Not that I felt like I was putting out any. I certainly don't feel that way at all. He was always pretty good to me. But I figured I'd invest in my own sharpening gear. I do a lot more milling now that I sold my business. I find that this is just as time-consuming as my other business. I think if I want to take it to the level that it needs to be, I have to learn to pace myself. So you can see that cutting really well now. I'm going to drop this blade over that one, like that. I'm going to put that in my setter. If I wasn't filming, it would make, I can do this whole process in about 10 minutes. Set, 2 blades, sharpen 1. Now I find the tooth that's pointing away from me, when you shut this machine off, you kind of have to time it so it's away from the wheel. So we'll go right through there. That's it. Turn that off. So that's all there is to that. So that would be as long as it would take me to set 2 blades and sharpen 1 blade. Now I know there's been some extra time obviously in there with the filming and whatnot. So that's just how long it takes to sharpen 1 blade and set 2 blades. So while I'm sharpening one, while the machine's working, I've got another one on the setter around that machine. It's just on one small little, looks like a hardware store cart, which all my sharpening gear is on that. And eventually I'm going to move that into a shed that's attached to my mill shed. All the sharpening gear, my spare blades and my fuel and blade lube, that kind of stuff. It's going to be all out there. Just one mention about these gloves. Now, Worth is a company that I used to buy all of my shop supplies through my automotive business I used to have. And they make these cut-proof gloves, vehicle extrication gloves. And they're amazing working around these blades. You can imagine my hands would be hanging hamburger meat if I didn't have a pair of decent gloves to wear. So I have these on, and I've never had so much as a scratch as long as I've had these gloves on. And they're great for handling these blades. So I can usually do a blade, and on a rainy day, I'll do a dozen or so for myself. I'll have a few stogged away, and I'll do customers' blades that same day. I'll have a few customers that'll drop blades off, and I'll be able to sharpen their blades. Now, it does help pay for this equipment. I charge a little bit, just a nominal fee to do that, but I'm more than happy to do it for people. And this new wheel that I have on my grinder is top notch. It'll put the profile right back into the teeth. So even some of the damaged teeth, if somebody's hit a little piece of metal, I might be able to save that a little bit, put the set back on where it belongs. So one thing to remember, always set your teeth first. And when you sharpen your blades, I guess that's about it. Set them first. I was trying to be real profound here somehow, but anyway, put the set on your teeth first, and then sharpen them, not the other way around. So, and I do check the set on every blade every time. So every time I go to sharpen a blade, I'll always check the set to make sure that it's right on. Even a new blade, I get in the habit of putting it on this set. It takes like a minute aside, because lots of new blades, the set hasn't been right. I've been finding that the set has been off a fair bit, and usually it's set a lot less than you expect it to. So they'll cut really good, but they're not clearing the sawdust out, and your kerf isn't very big, and it'll start to bind, and it could create more heat than you want. So I'll take them right away, and I'll put a 18 thousandths or so set on them. That means that from the center line, one tooth is 16 thousandths of an inch bent this way, and the other tooth is 16 thousandths of an inch set the other way, and one tooth is straight up in the air. So that makes sense. So anyway, thanks a million for watching this video. I like making these videos. If you guys have any questions about this procedure, or my mill, or my tractor, or what other silly project I got on the go, a motorcycle I'm rebuilding, or an engine or something, so don't be afraid to leave comments. So I read every single comment, and I respond to every single comment. It might take a few days before I do, but I promise you I'll get back to you. So anyway, I appreciate you looking at it, and don't be afraid to share these with your friends. We're trying to make this little channel grow a bit. It's been fun. So anyway, over and out, everybody.